find out what your table is going to be, so once you get your x and your y values, you're going to plot those points and their reflections, and you're going to sketch your parabola. I'm going to go ahead and write down the steps. Sketch, yes. I'm going to write down the steps for using the calculator for you, so you can write it down here on the fourth column. So the first step that you're going to do, this is for using the calculator. The first step is going to be to hit your y equals button. And type in your equation. The second step is going to be to hit graph. So hit the button graph. You're going to do this just to check and make sure that you graphed a parabola. So check to make sure it is a parabola. The reason why I gotta have you guys check that is because a lot of times you'll forget to hit the squared, or you'll forget to hit an X, and then all of a sudden you'll end up coming out with a line. And so if you end up getting a line and you write down the wrong points in your table, you're not going to graph it correctly. So you want to check and make sure that it is a parabola. Then you're going to hit second. Let me go down. So your third step is to hit second. Then you're going to hit graph. That is going to put you in your table. Once you're in the table, you're going to select 3 different values. You want to make sure that those values are preferably under 10. So I'm going to put a down arrow and do 10. So 10 and under. Can it be one that's more than 10? Sure. But graphing for 100 is not going to be fun to graph because you don't have enough points on your piece of graph paper to graph that. So you want to pick one that's going to be easy to graph. Okay? So let's show you a couple examples of graphing a vertex form equation. So now we're going back to our third. Do some examples. So your first example is y equals parentheses x minus 5 close parentheses squared minus 3.
We're on the third column now?
This is in the third column. So y equals parentheses x minus 5 close parentheses squared minus 3. The first step was to find your vertex. Your vertex is always going to be HK. Since in your equation it says x minus 5, that means that your h is going to be a positive 5, because you have to flip the sign. Because your formula is x minus h. So your h is going to be a positive 5. Then your k is going to be negative 3, because your formula at the end is plus k. So all you need to remember is you're going to switch the sign for your h, keep your k the same. Okay?
How'd you get that?
Because our formula is y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. Vertex is always hk. So this is like saying it's x minus h. So you're going to be taking what the h value is. So your h value is actually 5 for this equation. But it always messes people up because you got to remember, this is still plus k, so that's a plus negative 3. Switch the first one, keep the second one. Got it? Okay. So then we're going to find our other points using our table. So I need you to go to y equals, you're going to use the steps that we just wrote down on your fourth column. You go to y equals. And you're going to type in your equation. Make sure you type it in exactly like this. So we're going to hit open parentheses, x minus 5. X is right beside the green alpha button, to the right of it. Close the parentheses, squared, then minus 3. You're going to hit graph to make sure that you did graph a parabola. And then you're going to hit second table. And we're going to pick a couple of values from that. So to get to your table, you hit second graph. That'll put you in your table. Now when you're looking at your table, you'll see that you'll get x values on the left, you'll get y values on the right. And those are the values that you're picking from. So I don't want to pick something like the negative 478 because that's going to be hard to graph. Or the negative 133, that's hard to graph. So I'm going to keep going down until I find a couple of values that would be pretty easy to graph. So like 2, 6. 2, 6 would be pretty easy to graph. 3, 1 would be pretty easy to graph. And I'm just going to pick 4, negative 2. That way I can get a couple more points. What's up? Yours has 1. It's because you're all
So go back to some graph.
Yeah.
Second right there.
No.
So what do you want?
Like that one. Right there.
So now that you have your points, it's time to graph, and we're going to graph our reflections. So I'm going to graph it over here for you guys. Actually, I think I'm going to need to move this over some. So we're going to graph our vertex first. Our vertex is 5, negative 3. So I'm going to go over to the right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And down negative 3. So 1, 2, 3. So down to negative 3. I'm going to immediately draw my imaginary line straight through my vertex. Does it mess you guys up that it's in the same color? No, you're good? Okay. So now we're going to graph these points that I have found.
Colin said he's confused overall.
What are you confused about? Okay, so what are we confused about? Or we get lost? So, the first step we did was we found the vertex. Vertex is always HK. Do you know how we found the vertex?
equation, like, just how you see it.
So your formula is y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. So that means that we have our equation right here, which is y equals parentheses x minus 5 squared, squared plus our k is negative 3. So this is actually what you have. It has to be in this form, or in the form of the y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. So your a is actually 1 in front of here. Then you have x minus, your h is 5. It has to be in minus form. So your h is 5 because it has to be minus. So that means that your h is a positive 5. Then I have a plus sign. Well, what is it? It's minus 3. So your k is actually negative 3. If it were just, for example, if this was plus 5, that's like saying x minus, because I have to have it in the minus way, a negative 5, parentheses squared, plus then a negative 3. So it's always going to switch for your h. Even though it looks like and you want to just take it and pull it and say it's negative 5, no it's not. Because it has to be in the form of minus. So since it's in minus, you're just taking the h value, which is 5. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, no for you guys? Okay. So then, once you've found your vertex, that's your first step. Your second step is to find out other values. When you're finding those other values, you have to type it in your calculator. Well, you don't have to type it in your calculator, but I'm showing you the shortcut way. The calculator is doing all the work for you. So you're typing it in, and you're typing it into your y equals, and when you hit second graph, it gives you the list of those points. If you were to do that by hand, so if you can pick any value that you want, because on your parabola, you have an infinitely many amount of solutions. Like there's tons of them, they never stop. So I can pick anything that I want. It doesn't matter, there's no set number that you have to pick from, there's no, how did you know that those are the numbers that you had to pick? Those were just random numbers that I picked out because they were small to easy to work with. But how could I have found that out if I didn't have a calculator? It's the same way, the calculator did all the work for you, but we would take, and our equation is y equals, open the parentheses, x. Randomly, I'm going to say I want 2 to be my x. So everywhere you see an x, you're plugging in a 2. I have 2 minus 5 squared minus 3. You're then going to have to use order of operations to simplify that. So order of operations says parentheses goes first. Look at my parentheses. 2 minus 5 is negative 3 squared minus 3. I don't have any parentheses left to do anything within the parentheses, so now I'll move on to exponents. Negative 3 squared is going to give you a positive 9, because negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Then I have my minus 3. So we move on, multiplication, division, we don't have any of that, so I look at addition, subtraction. I have 9 minus 3 is 6. Is that not the value that your calculator gave you for your whenever x equals 2? So this is the long way of doing it. But the Math 2 final exam is all calculator active, so I show you the easy way by just plugging it into your calculator and you will get all of your values. You just have to pick any couple that you want. I picked 3 because the more value or the more points you have on the parabola, the more accurate your parabola is going to be. Okay? So that's all we've done so far. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I clarify everything that needed to get cleared up?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, good. So now we've gotten to the graph part. The first thing I did was I graphed the point for my vertex. So I graphed 5, negative 3. And same thing for standard form, you started off graphing that vertex, and then you always put the axis of symmetry through the vertex. Then we're going to graph a couple of points that we figured out through our calculator. So I've got 2, 6. So I'm gonna go over 2 and I'm gonna go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm gonna quadruple. I can graph 3, 1, so over 3, up 1, and 4, -2. Did I need that many points? No. You don't need that many points. But I just picked more just to kind of give me a little bit more to work with. But I do see that all of my points are on the left-hand side of my graph, and I don't have any on my right-hand side of the graph. So you do have to plot the reflection so that you can make your parabola. So my reflection line is right here at x equals 5. So I'm going to take this point right here, and it's 1 away from my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to make it 1 away on my axis of symmetry on the right-hand side. For this point, I'm 1, 2 away from my axis of symmetry. So I'm going to make it 1, 2 away on my right-hand side. Extending my line a little bit. And for this point, I'm 1, 2, 3 away. So I'm going to make it 1, 2, 3 away on my right-hand side. Like I said before, you don't need this many points, but it just makes it where it's more